Hurricane Erin is already rapidly intensifying, and it looks to become a major hurricane over the weekend. We'll look at the track and the impacts to our area. Your forecast across the Caribbean and the Bahamas starts right now.
This is Meteo Mundo.
Hi friends, Rusty back here at Meteo Mundo. We are your home for Caribbean weather. It's nice to see you on this Friday. I hope you're doing well. Coming up in this video, I've got all the newest information on Hurricane Erin, which became a hurricane earlier today and is already rapidly intensifying. This is going to become a major hurricane over the weekend. We're going to take a look at the track, all the models. I've got you covered here. There is so much to get into with this storm, so we'll go ahead and get started by letting you guys know that Meteo Mundo is sponsored by the leading law firm of Central Florida, your hometown homeowners insurance attorneys. You get wind, hail, hurricane damage of any kind. They can walk you through every step of the insurance claim process. Go to leanonmelaw.com if you would like more information. As always, you have a specific question about the forecast, feel free to drop it in the comments section below. This is the 5 p.m. Atlantic Standard Time advisory on Erin for this Friday. Winds are 75 miles an hour. That means Erin is a hurricane. Pressure is 993 millibars. It is still moving rapidly to the west-northwest at 17, located 365 miles or 585 kilometers from the northern Leeward Islands. These same tropical storm watches that were in effect yesterday are still in effect right now. That's Anguilla, Barbuda, St. Martin, St. Bart's, St. Martin, Saba, and St. Eustatius. So no changes in the tropical storm watches for the northern Leeward Islands. When we look at Erin on the infrared satellite imagery in the last couple of hours, you are seeing an intensifying storm. Erin was fighting a little bit of shear in the northwestern side, but look at the blow up on the IR imagery on that kind of left front quadrant here. It's overcoming the shear. There are indications right now that an inner core is beginning to form and potentially that first eye wall. And that's what we would typically see as a hurricane is intensifying through the Category 1 process. We start to see that eye clear out, and we get a little bit of that right at the end of this visible satellite imagery. So it does appear that Erin is going to be strengthening very quickly late on this Friday and through the weekend, and the Hurricane Center has it becoming a stout Category 4 hurricane as it moves to the north and to the west. Now, in the short term, let's see what's going to be happening for the Leeward Islands. We already talked about the tropical storm watches that are in effect, but the center of Erin is already in latitude near or just north of Anguilla. That is absolutely great news right now. The numbers that you see are wind gusts in miles an hour. So we're going to start to see the squalls enter the northern Leeward Islands as we get into late Friday and then overnight and then early on Saturday. But when I go back out to the broad perspective and I put on our track here, you're looking at a track that probably couldn't be better, okay? Because we are going to try and keep the core of the hurricane force winds outside of any landmass as it passes north of the Leeward Islands, the Virgin Islands, and Puerto Rico. Then we'll talk about the Turks and Caicos and the Bahamas and beyond coming up in just a minute. But in the short term, as Erin rapidly intensifies through the early part of the weekend, it does appear right now, based on the track and where Erin is at this point in time, that the hurricane conditions will stay north of the Leeward Islands, the Virgin Islands, and Puerto Rico. It doesn't mean we're not going to get some impacts because tropical storm conditions are likely. But again, we're just keeping these core winds far enough to the north where we have this buffer. And again, on the northern side of Erin is where we really have the strongest part of this storm. All of the heaviest convection and the strongest winds right now are in the northern semicircle. It is a little bit more ragged in the southern semicircle. And of course, that's another good piece of information for our friends in the northern Leeward Islands. So let me pause this real quickly here and let's take a look at our buffer as far as how far we are away from Anguilla, where we do have the tropical storm watch. We have a 100-mile buffer between the far southern extent of the cone of uncertainty and the northern Leeward Islands, and then out to the center point about 150 miles. So we still have a bit of a buffer there. Even in the Anguilla area here of the northeastern side of the British Virgin Islands, you're looking at about an 87-mile buffer, and then towards the center line about a 135-mile buffer. That's enough. If we can keep that buffer where, again, all of the hurricane force conditions with a strengthening Erin stay north of this area. But squally weather, heavy rainfall, wind gusts of up to 50 miles an hour, all possible in this region starting later tonight. So let's break it down on the models here. I'm going to bring up plenty of different models to show you guys. We'll start off with the GFS model, and I'm just going to take it out here over the next couple of days. More than anything, let me get back over to the reflectivity here and then loop this up. So we're going to kind of break down segment by segment as Aaron is moving through the Northeast Caribbean, the impacts that I expect. Now, let me be clear. I think the GFS is woefully underdoing how impressive Aaron is going to look on reflectivity, and more than likely will develop an eye before we even see it here on the GFS. Again, you know, the models have been really good lately with track the last several years. As far as intensity goes, they've really struggled with these rapidly intensifying hurricanes. So regardless of that, Aaron does, again, move to the north. We're going to get the squalls beginning to move into this area late tonight. So if we back this up as we get into Friday evening and Saturday morning, if you live in places pretty much Dominica North, Guadeloupe, Antigua, Barbuda for sure, Montserrat, St. Kitts and Nevis, Saba, St. Eustatius, Anguilla, and then into the British Virgin Islands and U.S. Virgin Islands throughout the morning hours of Saturday, and then bending into Puerto Rico. So Anegada on over towards Tortola, Yost Van Dyke, St. Croix, St. Thomas, St. John, and eventually the mainland Puerto Rico area as well throughout the day Saturday. This is when we're going to have the most impacts for this area. Again, keeping the core of the hurricane conditions just to the north, but tropical storm conditions are possible in these areas. At this point in time, no tropical storm watch for the Virgin Islands or Puerto Rico. That could get hoisted up later tonight, just depending on what the Hurricane Center thinks as far as the track and how widespread the tropical storm force winds could be within Aaron. Let me show you the sustained winds here. Same model, GFS model. And again, core hurricane winds right there near that center. It's a pretty compact hurricane at this point in time. So when we look at these winds on your screen, you're going to see some whites, especially up towards Anguilla and Antigua and Barbuda. Those are going to get you sustained winds, again, pushing tropical storm probability. That's about a 30 to 50% chance of tropical storm force sustained winds of over 39 miles an hour in this area. If we take a look, and I can actually query these numbers for you guys here, these are the sustained winds. Right now, the GFS model kind of keeps those 30-plus mile winds just offshore, but still expecting the opportunity that we could get some tropical storm conditions in these areas. Gusts could be a lot higher than this. And again, with that northwest track, it gets no closer to the Virgin Islands or Puerto Rico. So we're not going to see a lot in the way of sustained extremely strong winds in these areas. Again, 25, maybe 35 miles an hour. And you compare that with, again, 150 miles to the north, your sustained winds are going to be high-end Category 1, if not low-end Category 2 hurricane force winds. When we look at the gusts, again, still the GFS model here, just going through all these pieces of information so you guys have an absolutely perfect understanding of what's going to be happening here. But again, the news right now with Aaron is good. If you see these greens, you're going to be getting to the 20 to 30. Anytime you see the red, up to around 40 mile an hour gusts. Now, I do expect there to be stronger wind gusts than what the GFS model is showing you at this point in time, but it also clearly tells the story that Aaron, for the most part, misses the Leeward Islands, the Virgin Islands, and Puerto Rico to the north. So let me show you the half-say model reflectivity. If you look at the bottom of your screen, you're going to see the islands. Squally weather will certainly be moving into these areas. Now, again, the northern and especially the northeast quadrant is going to have the strongest winds and the heaviest rainfall. As we get towards the Turks and Caicos and the Bahamas, we're going to get some squalls there. But again, it's a little bit undercut on the western side. So the track of Aaron, right, and keeping the weaker side of the storm closer to the islands is also great news as well. Here's the half-say model snapshot of Aaron tomorrow morning. I've shown you this the last couple of videos. Let's look at the differences, okay? Tomorrow morning, as it moves, potentially the center 135 miles from Anguilla, which yesterday was 100 miles. So now we have a 35-mile buffer built into the half-say model compared to yesterday. That's good news, farther away from the islands because it's a stronger storm. Remember we talked about yesterday, a weaker storm was tracking south and west closer to the islands. A stronger Aaron is going to get tugged to the north because that shear that was keeping it weaker is not pulling it south and west any longer. So now you have a little bit bigger buffer built into the half-say model, but look at the difference in winds. Now the half-say has this as a Category 3 hurricane tomorrow morning with winds of 125 miles an hour. Yesterday, it had it as a minimal Category 1 with winds of 80. So it's a huge difference in the intensity, but again, pulling away from the islands because it's stronger. We'll take that. When you look at the arrival of tropical storm force winds throughout the next 5 days, again, you look at the islands in that light green to kind of that mustard color. If I take myself off camera, that's about a 30 to 50% chance of sustained 39-mile-an-hour winds or higher, not only the areas that I've already mentioned, but Turks and Caicos and the southeast Bahamas as well. Now down the road, Bermuda's chances for tropical storm force winds will go much higher than this. We'll talk about Bermuda coming up as well. But again, we're kind of breaking it down from short term to long term with Aaron's track. So starting off in the northern Leeward Islands, for my friends in Anguilla, St. Martin, St. Bart's, Saba, St. Eustatius, St. Kitts and Nevis, Montserrat, Antigua, Barbuda. Tonight, Saturday, the most impacts. Winds of 30 to 40 miles an hour sustained, gusts to 50, especially in the far northern Leeward Islands. Rain of 2 to 4 inches, 50 to 100 millimeters, large waves and high surf, already high surf advisories, but obviously marine conditions will be going down exceptionally. There still could be enough rain where we could get some isolated flooding, and there still could be some isolated wind damage, but overall, we are really, really fortunate in the northern Leeward Islands to have this very powerful hurricane missing us about 100 to 150 miles to the north. For the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico, the timing will be later tomorrow, kind of the latter half of Saturday into Saturday night and potentially even early on Sunday, especially in Puerto Rico. 25 to 35 mile an hour sustained winds, some gusts to 50. Again, power outages could come along with some of these squalls, and there will be some locally heavy rainfall that comes along with this. 2 to 5 inches, maybe up to 6 in portions of Puerto Rico, so 50 to 125 millimeters in most spots. Large waves and rip currents obviously building in as Aaron passes up to the north as well. This is a live look outside to Joost Van Dyke in the British Virgin Islands. This is the Soggy Dollar Bar, and I appreciate Jamie and our friends there at the Soggy Dollar Bar allowing us to show you that live look from Joost Van Dyke. Again, hey, it's gorgeous right now. A little bit of a breeze. Obviously, the weather will be going downhill, but overall, I think my friends here in Joost Van Dyke will be okay. I'll be monitoring the situation, and again, appreciate Jamie and the team there at the Soggy Dollar Bar allowing us to show that camera to help tell the weather story. All right, back out to the big perspective here. And again, let's carry on with what's going to be happening with Aaron as we get deeper into the forecast. Friends, do you guys see these fours? That's the Hurricane Center, Cat 4 strength. 130 to 160 as we get into Sunday, and eventually as we get into Monday and early Tuesday, maybe 145 with gusts of 175 miles an hour. It is so important to turn this storm north before the Bahamas and Turks and Caicos. We have to keep the core of Aaron away from any landmass because of an exceptionally strong storm that this is going to end up being. From my friends in Grand Turk, we're 107 miles from the western side of the cone of uncertainty, but we're more than 200 miles away from the actual potential track that is forecast. From the Acklins and southeast Bahamas, we're more than 300 miles. It's a decent buffer. The biggest impacts for these areas is going to be the squalls and the marine conditions, the large period easterly swells that'll be building back in. Let's go back over to our model. Going to take it out a little bit farther in time here. I'm just going to go ahead and drive this on out through its extended range, and then we'll look at that. So let me loop that up. I think the easiest thing to do again is to drop off some of this information so you guys just get a little bit better idea of what the actual track is going to be like here. And let me clear off that too. Okay, just 1 second here, guys. Hopefully when I do that, I'll be able to zoom in. There we go. Okay. So this is the GFS model. It's still on the eastern envelope of the tracks, okay? At this point in time, let me be very clear. I am not expecting any direct impacts for Turks and Caicos, Bahamas, or the eastern United States. It really is only Bermuda at this point in time that could have potential direct impacts from Aaron. All right. So again, this is almost best case scenario here with this major hurricane that will be developing. Again, it's a Cat 1 right now, but within a 24-hour time frame, it's not going to shock me if we get a major hurricane. So you can see in the GFS model that turn north. Now, can we split the goalposts here in between OBX, the Outer Banks of North Carolina, and Bermuda? The GFS is on the far eastern side and does unfortunately bring the stronger core winds closer to Bermuda as we get into late Tuesday and on Wednesday. Let me show you what it looks like with the winds. So these are going to be sustained winds. Same model GFS. Look at the other ones coming up. But again, just so you guys get an idea, hopefully this will pop on in just a second. That is a very strong hurricane developing. Hopefully taking that turn in the weakness around the western side of the Bermuda High and then spinning up. Again, you know, a little bit of a buffer, hopefully trying to keep these strongest of strong winds out of Bermuda. Go ahead and just let that loop up. Seems like it's going to go faster that way. If I pause it here, we look at these winds. Let me zoom in. Sustained winds, again, over Cat 3 strength. But the GFS model really has a hard time at making these storms as intense as they are this far out. So this is actually weaker than what it would be, but I want to be clear, you start to push in some stronger winds closer to Bermuda in this time frame, right? Especially, you know, higher end tropical storm force winds. These are sustained for my friends in Bermuda. So very close to the island, we're getting close to hurricane strength. So it's not the best case scenario for Bermuda, but it also may not be the worst case scenario if this bends to the north and west. Now, other models have this even farther away, okay? So if we look at the HAFS A from Aaron, the snapshot closest to the Turks and Caicos and the southeast Bahamas, again, the center 175 miles away, and thank goodness it is, because at 1 a.m. Monday, it has it as a sustained hurricane of 140 mile an hour winds, solidly a Cat 4 hurricane gust, probably 165 to 170. This is the ensemble members of the European model, okay? Late Monday night. This is the western extent of those models. There's the Bahamas, Turks and Caicos. Again, even the western periphery of our ensemble members keep it without direct contact to the Bahamas and Turks and Caicos. You hear what I'm saying, my friends? Again, potentially the best case scenario. Now, farther in time we go, more variables come into play, and it's not a guarantee. We have to vigilantly watch this through the weekend for these areas. But for Southeast Bahamas, Turks and Caicos, late Sunday, Monday. Right now, I've got 30 to 40 mile an hour sustained winds, gusts up to 50, 2 to 4 inches of rain, locally heavy downpours, some gusty winds, and those large easterly swells. And I mean on the eastern sides of these islands, large easterly swells indeed. So why will Aaron try and make this turn to the north? When we look at the mid-level analysis, we have a building large dome of high pressure in the south central United States. We're also beginning to rebuild the western side of the Bermuda High, and we have this weakness or this trough coming off of eastern Canada. And there's actually a little bit of a weakness here just off the United States East Coast at the present time. That should allow an envelope for Aaron to go right up there and again, hopefully split the difference between North Carolina and Bermuda. But this kind of pushes it back east, this kind of pushes it back west, and it just has this alley to follow. So that's the thinking and what the models are grasping onto right now as to why Aaron would be making that turn before getting anywhere near the United States East Coast. This is the European ensemble members at a broader perspective. I've circled Bermuda so you guys can see that. Again, the majority of the members have it in between North Carolina and Bermuda. It's a good situation. Your far western ensemble members would brush the northern Bahamas and the eastern United States, and then your far eastern ensemble members would get closer to Bermuda, with some of those having more direct impacts. I mean, shaving it. But if we take that center line, it's not bad, and that's exactly what you're seeing right now. This is the European ensemble member tracks. There's Bermuda. There's North Carolina, maybe a little bit closer to Bermuda, but still hopefully far enough away where the inner core winds, which is the most important thing to keep away from any landmass, do so on this track. Latest run of the European model that you guys are seeing. Now, again, the intensity officially Cat 4, right? The guidance with intensity has not been very good the last several years, especially with how quickly these storms can bomb out. It's not going to be surprising to get at least a Category 4 hurricane out of Aaron, and that can happen very rapidly over the weekend. But most models are already on a Cat 3 to Cat 4 scale for us here. Now, the biggest issue for the Western Atlantic Basin is going to be the waves, okay? That is not a misprint. 40 to 50-foot waves are likely to accompany the core of Aaron. That's another reason why we have to keep this puppy away from any landmass. Still though, when you look at that legend, you're looking at double-digit wave heights in swells getting to the eastern side of all of the Bahamas, Turks and Caicos, and portions of the United States East Coast, and of course, eventually Bermuda as well. So there will be some high surf advisories. There's going to be a rip current risk. There could be some beach issues and abnormally high tides. All of that will more than likely encompass the Western Atlantic Basin here as Aaron moves through. And on the northern side of the Dominican Republic and Haiti and Puerto Rico, again, we can have those kinds of same situations as well. Obviously, as Aaron moves through your area, there's going to be some significant marine issues. So let's break it down, my friends. Hopefully I've helped tell the story of Aaron very clearly, but this should also kind of tell it as well. As of now, no direct hurricane impacts are expected in the Northeast Caribbean. Let us hope that continues to be the case. Aaron should pass north and will pass north at this point in time of the Leeward Islands, Virgin Islands, and Puerto Rico tomorrow. Turks and Caicos, turns north before Turks and Caicos and the Bahamas. That's the official forecast. And then the only real question is, does it split North Carolina and Bermuda at this point in time? Obviously, a vigilant eye on this as well. Friends, if you've gotten anything out of this video, and it took basically all day to put together, if you want to give me a quick thank you, I humbly ask you to hit that like button for me right now. Help support the channel in that way. If you haven't subscribed to Meteo Mundo, you want these daily forecasts and your tropical updates across the Caribbean and the Bahamas, you found your home. Thanks for hitting that subscribe button. Make sure you have the notifications on when I drop a new video. Thank you for sharing this with your family and friends. Appreciate all of those who have supported the channel in other ways, via the memberships, via the super thanks. You want to become a member, help join the team and help support the channel. 2 tiers for just 99 cents a month. Easy for me to say. You can become a supporter, custom badges and emojis during our live streams. I shout you guys out. Team MM for $2.99 a month. You get access to exclusive member shorts. I produce some short form videos in between these longer forecast videos. Okay, that is a ribbon on Aaron for now. Obviously, I'll have another update for you guys tomorrow and keep an eye on things. The other story in the tropics has been this invest, which is situated just off of the coast of South Texas. Not going to develop, more than likely, Invest 98L, but some flooding rains for South Texas and northern Mexico are possible with that system. And it's also bringing some heavy rain across the I-10 corridor of the northern side of the Gulf there in the U.S. Now, we continue to see, and please excuse me for a second, thunderstorms developing over the Yucatan at the hour. Those have become fairly widespread. I'm going to bring back on here. Should have the wind gusts on, so if we catch any winds that are of a gusty nature, they should pop up on my screen. At this point in time, it doesn't look like we have anything outrageous. These are your temperatures, just making sure that the model is actually showing us the information. But you've got a heck of a lot of lightning here, no doubt about it. Driving in from Cancun and Cozumel, headed towards Merida and Campeche. It's been a little bit more scattered, southern sides of Quintana Roo, but building thunderstorms right now at the hour across Belize, the coastal Guatemala, and northern Honduras, Roatan, Utila, Guanaja, San Pedro Sula, La Ceiba, places like that could all get into the act. Scattered rain over the Cayman Islands, but fairly isolated. Thunderstorms are really beginning to break out for my friends in Jamaica. Look at the lightning here. Pretty hefty rain across a lot of the southern parishes, including Kingston, Portmore, Spanish Town, halfway tree Old Harbor. If you've had some heavier rain in this area and some thunderstorms, let me know in the comments section below. Pretty darn widespread is what it looks like on the visible satellite imagery. I mean, you're talking about pretty overcast skies, pretty good thunderstorm activity over Jamaica here late on this Friday. So some healthy thunderstorms and higher rainfall totals, especially in the southern parishes. And I mean, I'm including all the way into portions of St. Thomas Parish for today as well. Scattered thunderstorms over Cuba at the hour. Still a quieter day in the Bahamas at this point in time. We're getting a few spotty showers to roll over the northern and northwest Bahamas, places like New Providence and Andros and Eleuthera, all with that opportunity. Now, if you guys are new to the channel, you guys know that we have live cameras here at Meteo Mundo to help tell the weather story. This is the live look to central Eleuthera. This is Governor's Harbor there in central Eleuthera as we look off towards the west. It's a beautiful afternoon there. A couple of passing showers and isolated storm possible, but again, a lot of dry hours and locations in the Bahamas on this Friday. Obviously, things will take a turn downhill later into the weekend. Scattered showers and thunderstorms developing over Haiti and the Dominican Republic. You know, still pretty spotty at the hour. Southern coastline towards the peninsula of Haiti from Lacaille off towards the west. A few thunderstorms towards Santo Domingo, Bani, and the San Pedro de Macorís area, La Romana, Punta Cana can absolutely see a thunderstorm. Again, you live on the northeastern side of the Dominican Republic, the swells are going to begin to move in Puerto Plata, the Samana Peninsula, down towards Punta Cana. Few thunderstorms have snuck into portions of Puerto Rico at the hour. Gusty winds, but nothing outrageous for the Virgin Islands. Again, it's just beginning. This is kind of the far southwest extent of what Aaron is going to be throwing into this area, and it'll just build throughout the remainder of the evening, but especially the overnight hours. Again, your blue slashes are going to be the islands that have the tropical storm watch that is currently into play, and squalls are beginning to pick up, and it will continue to pick up overnight. It could be a pretty rowdy night. May not be getting a lot of sleep in these areas. The winds are going to be howling, but again, I feel pretty good about the scenario that's in play considering what Aaron is going to be and how far north it is, right? So still, even as far north as Anegada and Anguilla, we're looking pretty good. And you can tell that by the fact that the Hurricane Center and the local governments have not upgraded the tropical storm watches to warnings or anything else. By the way, as always, check in with your local government and your local officials for all the timely information in any kind of, situation that you need to do to protect yourself and your property. Okay, that's your responsibility, as they say, but your local government and local officials will always have the most up-to-date information. Now, we're going to get some rain as far south as Dominique and Martinique out of Aaron, but more scattered than anything. There's still some tropical moisture down to the Windward Islands. It's not nearly as high. There's even a little bit of haze in the sky, but this is the live look to Corinth, St. Lucia, and you get that. A little bit of haze, a little bit of higher cloud coverage, a little bit of mid-level clouds, but an exceptional afternoon across most of the area. Look, most of you who live in this area have been talking more about the heat the last couple of days than the rain, how hot that it's been here with temperatures in the low 90s Fahrenheit, so 32, 33, maybe even 34 degrees Celsius, and feels like temperatures above 100 degrees Fahrenheit from time to time as well. Some of my friends in the ABC Islands have mentioned you've had a couple of showers and a few storms lately. Well, not this afternoon in Oranjestad, at least. Live look outside to Aruba at the hour again. Beautiful afternoon. I love how when we talk about this camera, it just says, Rusty, I got you. I'm just going to go ahead and pan. I mean, can you beat this shot from Oranjestad? What a fantastic late Friday afternoon there. Again, that live camera for you guys. Okay, let's talk about the rain across our entire area over the next couple of days. So let me switch back over here to our reflectivity on the back end, and we'll go out for the next 3 days. So obviously we've talked extensively about Aaron. Anywhere else is not going to have any kind of impact whatsoever. Again, some splashy rain, some squally weather, potentially for the Dominican Republic and Haiti. Could see a local heavier downpour. I can't rule out, an isolated flash flood issue. Obviously Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands and northern Leeward Islands all come with that. But, even down the road again with the weaker side of Aaron impacting the Bahamas and the Turks and Caicos, it's more just squalls coming in, feeder bands coming in, rather than just prolific, consistent, heavier rain. That's why the rainfall totals out of a storm that will more than likely produce well over a foot of rain along its inner core is going to be that 2 to 4 inch rain. Scattered showers, a few thunderstorms for Cuba, Cayman Islands, Jamaica the next couple of days. Behind our invest, which is moving on shore, will dry out in the short term over Quintana Roo in the northern side of Central America, and then build back in the rain chances in some areas late Sunday and other areas on Monday and Tuesday. But rain chances will be scattered, although they'll be a little bit more widespread, closer to the monsoon trough, back towards Costa Rica and Panama. Expecting it to, again, be very wet and stormy, Dominica north, with scattered rain, Martinique, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Barbados, Grenada, Trinidad and Tobago here with no direct impacts out of Aaron. Still could see some marine advisories from time to time. And again, down the road, we'll be monitoring our friends in Bermuda, right? With the weather here likely to start going downhill on Tuesday, and then we'll just have to see how close of an approach the core winds of Aaron get to Bermuda. Now, the interesting thing is the last update from the Hurricane Center still kept it as a Category 4 due west of Bermuda. The last one earlier this morning had it weakening to a Cat 3. So it shows you that in the Monday, Tuesday timeframe, Aaron is likely to get strong enough to hold on to Cat 4 strength even into early on Wednesday. European rainfall totals, again, along the track of Aaron, you're going to start to see that foot of rain, 250 millimeters, 300 millimeters in some spots. But again, staying mainly in the offshore waters. We'll take that. Locally higher amounts for the areas that I've already mentioned. And again, potentially Not a ton of rain for most of the Bahamas, outside the southeast Bahamas and down towards the Turks and Caicos. Okay, my friends, I think that's going to about do it for the video. I appreciate you guys so much. You can follow us across all social media, Instagram, TikTok, X, and Facebook. You want to send me a picture or video to help tell the weather story, it's myMediaMundo@gmail.com. As always, you have a specific question about the forecast, feel free to drop it in the comments section below. While you're down there, thank you for liking and subscribing. And please remember that Meteo Mundo is sponsored by the leading law firm of Central Florida, your hometown homeowners insurance attorneys. You get storm damage of any kind. They'll walk you through every step of the insurance claim process. They offer free consultation and policy reviews. You've got nothing to lose. Go to leanonmelaw.com if you would like more information. For my friends in the Northeast Bahamas, Northeast Caribbean, you know I'm going to keep a very vigilant eye on Aaron throughout the weekend, and I will keep you updated. I absolutely wish you the best, but at this point in time, it does look like we have about the best case scenario track with Aaron, keeping those hurricane conditions off of any of our land masses. Friends, take care. I'm back tomorrow. I'll see you soon right here at Meteo Mundo.